Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to take a look at an ambush sword deck. So this is basically just a fun kind of deck that I spotted around that I thought would be an interesting one to try and play a little bit of. So your main focus obviously being pure ambushes just everywhere, along with a few stat boosters in the Rogue's Creed, the Weaponry Forge, Rounding Step, those sort of cards, just giving nice +1/+1s over the course of the game until you can hopefully play enough of your ambushes early that you can boost them up really high in the end. Onslaught being an interesting one just to summon a knight, nothing too special there. There's not much commander synergy, if any, honestly. Actually, I don't think there's really any commander synergy overall. The only other cards to really play are things like Ruthless Assassin, which have Bane, effective ways to remove things, which is quite good. Can't really go too wrong with that. So your main focus being all the ambushes, the Art of Ninja, nice little clear. The ambushes also work well with Shield of Flame to deal up to 6 damage, usually closing out the game sometime around turn 5, turn 6 at the latest. Usually if you go much further than that, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to pull off a game. On the odd occasion you will though, so that's always a possibility. So we'll go right into all the games here, and I hope you enjoy them. Alrighty, so the first game is against a Dragon Grandmaster. So we do get to go second, which is okay. Your ideal starting hand, you're looking for a 1, 2, 3 curve. So Quick Blader is good, Kunoichi Trainee, and then Rogue's Creed, probably a pretty ideal curve. The perfect curve would probably be the 1-drop ambush, 2-drop ambush, Frog, and then Rogue's Creed for 4. That's probably your ideal 4-drop curve, like 4 curve. Other than that, there's not too much to say about it. You just curve out nicely, make sure you have those Rogue's Creeds as much as possible. Being able to boost your ambushes is pretty critical to the deck. You also want to leave most of your ambushes in ambush mode unless you really need to ram into something. So as you'll see, you know, Rogue's Creed can come down. You want to be able to play Frog in front of Rogue's Creed, otherwise the abilities won't trigger in order, which can be a huge problem. Unfortunately I didn't draw Frog in this hand, which made things a little more difficult, but we did have the Trainee to go with the second Rogue's Creed, which is an amazing little burst damage. Plus, it doesn't hurt to evolve when you can. Even evolving something, if you're not going to attack with it, is pretty fine, because you're able to then gain 2 evolves to attack face, working in your favour a little bit. And things like I said, Shield of Flame, 6 damage to anything you want on board is pretty solid when you're running ambushes. And fortunately we do end up with a double Shield of Flame. But we'll keep one just in case another Sybil or another big drop does come down. So we're aiming for lethal in next turn. That's kind of the plan I was going for, hopefully. Maybe the turn after. Unfortunately, they do end up just sacrificing their entire hand to clear off the 7/7 and deal a shit ton of damage. Fortunately, saving that Shield of Flame is really good. The unfortunate part is this Frog does not gain Rogue's Creed unless it is placed from left to right in first position. You have to have it in front of the Rogue's Creeds for it to gain its ability, just because of order of effect. But it's still a solid 3/4 body. That can hit things like that 2/1 there if it would have needed to. Unfortunately, the Grimnir does clear board. Although they are top decking, making things a little harder. The only fortunate part is we do get that, which does give us 2 boosts on them, giving us a +4 total with those rogues. The unfortunate part is we get set to 1, making this matchup a little trickier. But as long as they don't have that 1 damage, we can win the game within our next turn. But then unfortunately we do get Salamandred, making that really difficult. If you do end up getting board clear like this and going into later games, it can be really difficult to pull back, and you've just got to get super lucky. Otherwise you can be in a really tight spot. Unfortunately, they didn't draw lethal, which was the biggest gain for me here. If they had of, I would have been in a really bad position. So our next match is against Blood. This is a pretty good showcase of what you can do against a Blood deck with this Ambush deck. Obviously Blood still is going to be the strongest, but Ambush does have a chance. Luckily we draw pretty much perfect. A Quick Blader into Kunoichi into a Frog is an ideal hand. Especially when you can play Quick Blader on 1. And the Shield of Flame is really nice to draw into, especially when you're trying to deal with a Tove on turn 2, sorry. Which will most likely be the outcome of a Blood deck. And Rounding Step, if we want to play that on turn 4 if they don't play anything else. So it works out right in our favour, being able to get rid of that. We did start with basically the God Hand of this deck. You want to have that 1, 2, 3 drop. Not quite as ideal as I would have liked, but definitely good. And here, luckily, you know, the 2-1 trade value into a 2-2. Always pretty solid, and we did have the Frog, which is a really nice play. So they drop an Alice. Fortunately, Alice only really has one target on board, being that 1-1, so the Frog does get to protect itself with its ambush. And Ninja Master, pretty ideal. The idea is that Ninja Master plus Rounding Step and Vagabond Frog evolve all add up to a total of 11, setting them just out of Vengeance range, and going into turn 5, the best card they can probably play would have been Bahamut, because they just don't have anything else. So against Blood, you've got a pretty good odds if you can curve out perfectly in your opening hand, so 1, 2, 3. Even on a 2, 3, 4 curve, you can still do quite well with your damage if you get the right ambushes. Obviously, Blood is always going to be a hard matchup in this meta, that's just how things are, unfortunately. The best deck to counter Blood at the moment would be Haven, so if you are looking for something like that, I have got other videos that cover that. But right now, that's a pretty solid win. And so I've saved the quickest for last. We literally have a couple turn concede pretty much. We curve out ideally. You know, we start out with double Kunoichi. I decide, you know, 2 Kunoichi, we don't really need that. So we'll drop one of those. We've fortunately drawn into Vagabond, so we have a 2, 3 and then a 4 curve with the Rogue's Creed. And we draw into Ninja Trainee. So this is your ideal hand. You go into the Ninja, then you drop the Kunoichi Trainee into Vagabond Front into the Rogue's Creed for a massive, massive gain. Unfortunately, Weaponry Forge makes turn 5 actually half decent. Luckily, they don't play anything turn 1 or turn 2. They must have had a really bad hand to not be able to play anything. And with my ideal curve, all ambushed, there's just nothing left for them. And Rogue's Creed just really seals the deal here. Being able to easily boost all 4 of these, Dragon just didn't have anything left, I don't think. That's pretty much why they gave up by this point. Making it a really quick game. So that was the ambush deck. Pretty solid. Definitely does the job if you just want to have some fun or complete some sword missions. You can never go wrong using the Vagabond Frog. Obviously, like I said, ideal curve, Ninja Trainee, Kunoichi, Vagabond Frog, and then the Rogue's Creed for 4. The ideal one after that is probably something like Rounding Step, Weaponry Forge, maybe even Ninja Master. Anything like that will be really solid into the turn 5. Also, keeping Shield of Flame, especially against things like Blood and Sword, in your matchups will always be ideal, just because of the 3 to 6 damage range that you can deal. So other than that, there's not much to say about this deck. You could probably swap out an extra one of those Rogue's Creeds and put it next to Tsubaki. I just don't have 3 Tsubakis, I've only got 1 unfortunately. Otherwise I probably would run 2 of that. The Onslaught's another card that I may drop. You might be better off running Dance of Death. I just don't know whether that Summon a Knight is really worth it when you don't have any commanders that I could find anyway that work with it. I actually can't really work out why that would be in this deck build, but that just turned out to be the deck build that I'd found around. So I'll leave a link to the original deck build, and I'll leave the deck list to this deck in the description below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.